I think if you look at human beings, we don't like to do anything really alone. There's good reason for that. And so if we sort of were able to somehow in our conversation right now just sort of like leave this room and sort of observe from like 10,000 feet up and just think about how people behave, I think we could see that folks who are by and large giving up this thing, they're essentially, let's say, taking the path of Jim Carrey's dad. In the book, that would be like going left, to be very clear. And Jim Carrey then did this thing going right, his choice to pursue his peak expression. Both camps, when you get there or you make that type of decision, really huddle up together. Because what do people do who are afraid and they give up the thing that's really itching at their heart, the thing that they really want, is they get to the accounting job, let's say in Jim Carrey's father's example, and the conversation really changes as people want to confirm the decisions that they're making. And they want to sort of commiserate in this thing that, like, it's hard, right? Like, we had to do this, right? It's okay, right? And they sort of lock arms in that way. And it's kind of sad to think about. A mistake I think that we make is the people who go the other way. So let's say Jim Carrey. You know, I've been fortunate to be in some ridiculous rooms every now and then with highly successful people like that. Like rooms I kind of don't. Like I'm the odd man out, right? And what I observe is that those people do the same thing. Like the Jim Carreys look across the room at, you know, the Pat Rileys, who looks across the room at the Rick Rubins, who looks across the room at the Laird Hamiltons, and then they lock arms in their own way. And there's a mutual respect and care for their vulnerability to put themselves out there for whatever it is that their thing, their pursuit is. Because they know how scary that is as well. Both people are scared. And what we don't talk about a lot is these people that we would unanimously say are successful. Like most people when interviewed would say, Jim Carrey, successful or not? We'd be like, yeah, he was one of the ones. He is this other. He is the type of person who is not like me. He did this thing that is exceptional and rare, and it's not the world that I live in. But I think if we were sitting here with Jim Carrey, he would describe a slightly different story, which is one full of shortcomings. Like he doesn't feel like he's arrived and done. He doesn't feel like his life has been like a big check mark. He's still like on his journey, and there's some level of sort of dissatisfaction in there, a lot of failure in there. We don't grant him that truth. And so what we do down here on like the decision-making floor is we say, well, I have these two choices. One feels like it's a little more certain, you know, Jim Carrey's dad, let's say, going to be this accountant thing. And the other one feels like I'm probably going to try really hard and I may get disappointed. When the truth is, hey, I can go and be this accountant and experience some disappointment and not quite live the life that I want. Or I can try to become this comedian and also not really like what I have and come up a little bit short and experience failure. And that both are uncertain and both are full of failure. And the people who actually go for it, the sort of hypothetical room that I just described of the successful people, they understand that. And I don't think we talk about that enough. You know, my experience of my life is full of failure as well. And I think people who don't know me would look and tell a different story, you know, like, because when I get introduced on podcasts, I say like former professional athlete, current, you know, entrepreneur of these successful businesses or whatever. It's like, I look at my baseball career and that was 20 years that resulted in a failure. You know, I look at my entrepreneurial career and I'm like going to evaluate this moment. It's like, did I crush it? Like, is it over? Like, where's the gold medal? It feels really hard, actually. Like, I'm dealing with like gnarly emails and my own dissatisfaction about this thing. And so what's actually true is that being quote unquote successful and going for this sort of higher level pursuit doesn't really feel the way we assume that it feels. And so if you're going to begin a decision-making process with the assumption that being successful wouldn't include things like failure and uncertainty and adversity and disappointment, then you're not even starting from the right starting point. You know? And so when you look at it that way, it's sort of like, well, if failure and adversity and disappointment and difficulty are apparent in both choices, and only one gives me the opportunity to even pursue the things that I really want and to experience the highest expression of joy, then like, is there really even a choice? I mean, Jim Carrey actually has a very similar quote to that, right? Like, there is no choice once you see it that way, because the other one guarantees failure, disappointment, and misery and a lower self, and the other one is the only one that offers an opportunity. You know, it just seems very black and white in the opposite direction that way.